Sakamoto Days Review. Netflix's new anime series will fill the John Wick void. Even for viewers who are familiar with the world of anime, it's still surprising how the genre can bring something new to the table years after it's been established. Just recently, Dan became a surprising hit not only because of its approach to mixing supernatural and extraterrestrial stories, but also its unique animation style. On a similar path, the new Netflix series Sakamoto Days, based on the manga series created by Yuto Suzuki, quickly establishes its own identity, and it might just be one of the year's best shows, depending on how it's handled in the coming weeks. Since Netflix is dropping episodes weekly, as has become common for both anime and K-dramas on the platform, this review covers only the first 2 episodes of Sakamoto Days. Despite not revealing much of where the story is going, these episodes provide a pretty clear picture of what we can expect in terms of the series' tone while also introducing a threat that will likely play out in the weeks to come. Sakamoto Days follows the titular character, Taro Sakamoto, voiced by Tomokazu Sugita in the original subtitled series and Matthew Mercer in the English dub, a professional and ruthless killer who is feared by criminals and admired by his peers. His life changes drastically when he meets a woman at a convenience store and decides to retire from the assassin's world in order to settle down and start the small business. 5 years later, Sakamoto has put on a lot of weight and established a family, but enemies from his past start to resurface, threatening his new quiet life. It can sometimes be difficult to find the balance between extreme violence and comedy without undermining either of the two. More often than not, stories that try to walk that particular tightrope tend to make their violence so excessive that it's hard to take them seriously. Make no mistake, in Sakamoto Days, the violence is over the top, but it's all along the same lines as franchises like John Wick, which exaggerate their more brutal scenes without sacrificing the potential for audience investment. From the get-go, Sakamoto Days understands that it needs to establish its protagonist as a dangerous figure. So, we get a sequence in Episode 1, The Legendary Hitman, that makes it clear why Sakamoto became such a legend in the assassin world while also demonstrating that the anime takes its action sequences pretty seriously. Despite being exaggerated, the violence can be pretty gruesome at times, and aside from working in the context of the series, it also renders the action scenes pretty distinct from the comedic ones. However, the show's humor also works pretty well. The only setback is that some of its subjects of comedy have become outdated through a contemporary lens. More than once, Sakamoto Days makes a point of playing how fat Sakamoto is for laughs, with parts of his body bobbing up and down so you never forget how big he's become in his retirement years. The good thing is that the show doesn't linger too much on those jokes, and, at least for the first 2 episodes, it doesn't suggest that Sakamoto's shape has affected his deadly abilities at all. This is one good counterpoint to the fatphobic jokes. Sakamoto's enemies underestimate him because of his weight, and it's always great fun to see them learn their lesson the hard way. Of course, 2 episodes isn't much for a definitive evaluation of an entire season. But, from its initial premise, it feels like Sakamoto Days has enough promise to deliver a highly entertaining batch of episodes. By the end of Episode 2, versus Sun Hee and Ban Cho, you have a pretty clear vision of what the structure of the show will be, as well as the villains who get into motion to take Sakamoto down. Whether the series continues to repeat its Enemy of the Week format or evolves to something else, it'll be a win-win for viewers either way. If it remains as good as its initial 2 episodes, Sakamoto Days will be yet another title to join the wave of excellent stories that Japanese creators have been bringing to audiences. In the last decade alone, the shounen subgenre has been flipped on its head several times with titles like Demon Slayer, Jujutsu Kaisen, My Hero Academia and Chainsaw Man, just to name a few. In that sense, it's also impressive how Sakamoto Days is able to join said wave of shounen stories while still doing its own thing. And it's great that the show seems primed to have a lot to offer in the upcoming 9 episodes. We've barely seen the Sakamoto family together. There's certainly a lot from the lead's assassin past to be unveiled and, as the title sequence has already spoiled, more characters are set to join the main cast. A good start for the year in anime, indeed.